Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new podcast called The Strange Internet, where we talk about all kinds of fun things. Everything is based around the internet. My name is Robert.
And I'm Patrick, and we are here to bring you a recount of how we met, how we got started on the internet, and how we formed a podcast.
Yeah, everything started many, many years ago. We met about, 6 years ago now? I want to
Yeah,
say
right about there.
2016. And we met online, which which turned into us meeting one time in person.
Yes.
Uh,
The meeting online was centralized around PUBG,
mhm.
Player Unknown Battlegrounds, which is a
Yes.
video game where you uh, have a character you load into a map and you're facing off against a number of other players. You collect loot and get kind of ready to fight. And I was left alone in a house, and they have an open microphone system where you can call out to the other players in the game. And I was absolutely screwed. And I just screamed into the open mic, "No one's home, go away." My team's dead. And Rob responded on the other side and said, "Oh my God, want to join our Discord? We're trying to get a fourth person." So it turned into this chance meeting where I was, you know, in a position where I was about to lose the game. And it turned into a pretty cool friendship.
I don't even remember how that game ended, but I would like to note that since day one we started out as enemies,
True.
and and turned it into something a lot
True.
better, and that's been a running theme in our relationship for sure. But yeah, we're also gonna note that we're huge nerds. Um, that's definitely how everything started, and then that turned into a lot of different activities that we've been a part of, like running a bunch of online communities. You've met my real life friend in person as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, we've made all kinds of different friends throughout the years, which is pretty crazy. We met all kinds of different, interesting characters on the internet for sure. Played a lot of different
Definitely.
video games together. A lot of people who may be listening who know me in real life probably don't know that I'm actually a huge gamer and a huge nerd. So that's something I'm now exposing to the rest of the world, which is pretty crazy. But yeah.
There you go. So,
Mhm.
how did we get here? How did we get to the point where we're going to make a podcast? What was your initial intention with the podcast?
Well, I remember like a year and a half ago or like a year ago, you were like, "Hey, let's do a podcast. We're funny." Something like that. Like I remember you just like off the cuff. It honestly could have been longer too. You just off the cuff like brought it up. And originally I think it was supposed to be with a few of us. And
Right.
then you and I were the only ones that were like actually serious about it. Um and then you definitely I think a lot more serious about it than I was at the time because I was like, yeah, that's a cool idea, but I don't know what kind of work goes into that, and like my life got a lot more complicated. I mean, whose didn't during the pandemic?
Right.
Um, so I think, I mean, at least for me, like I kind of just like set it down, and I was like, oh, like this is a cool idea, but I have so much going on right now. And then recently, you were like, oh, I am going to start a podcast. Like I'm going
Right.
to do a podcast. Do you want to like be a guest on a podcast? Um, slash co-host, and then I'm definitely the mean one because you then pitched an idea that I near instantly shot down myself.
Right.
And how
Which
did that
I'm
make you
continuing.
feel?
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
continuing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think your separate idea will honestly be amazing, just like for what I feel I'm good at and
Yeah.
what I can offer. I'm happy to hop in, but I don't think that's my like everyday for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, to finish like how we got to this point, um we kind of ran with the idea, and then originally we were gonna, interview quite a few people. Then we realized that might not be like as easy to do, especially on a weekly basis, which is what we want to keep doing.
Hmm.
And then we just, chatted about what we knew, and that's what we're gonna focus on, is like what we know. You know, being on the internet, seeing a lot of weird shit, meeting a lot of really interesting characters, and
Building
yeah,
communities, building
yeah.
businesses,
Oh God,
doing new
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. That was the initial idea behind me creating a podcast. Is if people are familiar with Discord or Slack, I know is used in the business world. I created a text channel and I was like, all right, here's, where we're gonna put the podcast stuff. And it
Yeah.
sat dormant for 8 months with
Minimum.
like zero input going
Yeah.
into that. And
Yeah.
now we're kind of at the point where we're like, okay, let's create a podcast in 2 days and let's do
Hmm.
all this heavy lifting to
Hmm.
bring some fun um, to the podcast world. So
Hmm.
uh, maybe we jump into some online communities that we've been a part of
Yeah.
and how those are strange and
Yeah.
uh,
um. Well, one thing I think, even if people do know that I am a gamer, is that a lot of people don't know that I've actually run a lot of really large, successful, not companies, but communities on Discord, which is honestly not as difficult as it sounds to get larger communities. But the one that we first had done together was for the game Destiny 2.
mhm.
I want to say that was what, 2018.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
2018, there was this whole like new expansion. We got into the game and we're like, oh, this is cool. And I don't know what it is. I just have this like, whenever I'm in a new game or in a game that I like or whatever, I really enjoy kind of bringing people together and like starting a community. And I think you err on the same side of like helping people and making sure everyone's having a good time when possible,
Right.
more than anything else. We're not, completionists in video games. We're not, we need to be the first to do whatever, or be the best or whatever, because we're very often not. But, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I play games because I like connecting with people in a different way than you're forced to outside, which is
Mhm.
weird because I consider myself very much an introvert, even though I'm really good at pretending to be an extrovert. I'm definitely an introvert. Definitely like my own time, my own space. I don't like to be around a lot of people at the same time. But when I'm online, a lot of people don't know that I'm actually like the ringleader in that way. Like I'm the one driving the community and like, trying to make sure everybody's interacting and getting along, and which is a very weird kind of dichotomy.
Mhm.
But anyways, so we started running this community, and in the game, I believe you can have a maximum of 100 members, and we hit that very quickly. I realized I'm very good at marketing.
True. Yeah.
And on it, for me, that was probably one of the most fun communities I've ever been a part of, like larger communities. I've been a part of several. Um,
Definitely.
but in terms of, because it's the way that those communities run, and in the game, for those that don't know, they're called clans. But the way that those are run, it's not competitive. The game is not competitive. So it's meant to kind of build on like helping each other. I don't know, and so I have a lot of really really good memories. We still have the Discord server, which like no one uses, but it's
Right.
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
that one was interesting because we had shifts of people that would get on and
Yeah.
they were across the world. It was a
Yeah.
global community, which was
Yes.
interesting in itself, but we would log off in the west, the central, the east, and then, people in Europe and Australia would jump on and finish off the night, and then it would come back around as the workday was ending where we were getting back
Yeah.
onto Destiny, and that was a fun time. There are quite a few different types of people that we
Hmm.
came across, and it was cool to learn about those kind of global cultures that we're not a part of. And
Hmm.
speaking on online communities, I think it's interesting that maybe over the past 5 years or so, it's much harder to make friends as an adult when you're not, you know,
Yeah.
exposed to new people all the time. You go to the same job or you're in the same city, and you know, you might travel, but you're not making these long-term
Yeah.
friendships that you find online. That I think is something unique to the gaming community that other hobbyists might not find, where they're consistently dealing with the same people day in day out, jumping in voice, learning things about each other, which I think is the power of these
and
Discord
and you share
communities.
a lot of personal information with these
Oh
people
my
too.
god, yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
amount of things that I know about people I've never even seen before. Like
sure.
not only have I never met them, but like for instance the ones that we kind of chat with now, like I haven't even seen like a photo of these people.
Hmm.
So for me to know so much about their personal life as well as, me share things, obviously not like explicit things, but
Right.
um even telling someone like where you live, like that's kind of a big deal for I think a lot of people, and for us it's like kind of normal.
Hmm.
um but it's interesting the relationships that you gain with these people who you've never met too, and like how upset people can get because of how invested they are in those types of relationships.
Sure. I think there's a layer of insulation that you
Hmm.
have with strangers on the internet in a way that, you know, you feel more apt to sharing, you know, like your crappy day at work or something that um, you might not say to your friends because they're like, oh, well, like you're just complaining again or things like
Hmm.
that. Where like, oh, I'll complain to a stranger, no problem.
Hmm.
But then people, you know, they kind of get into that same mindset, and then you're worried about them and you're worried about these events in their life, and it just becomes a much stronger bond than you have, because even when you have really good friends, you're not getting on and texting them every day. You might see them
Well,
as you,
some would.
oh yeah, sure, but you know, like jumping in voice chat, you know, like
Right.
some of these things that that I didn't share with friends like that. Like sure,
Yeah.
we would get together and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
this is way different. It's like, you know, same time every day you hop in and you're all playing games
Hmm.
and sharing these uh portions of your
Yeah,
life.
I mean, a great example is like so many of my super close friends had no idea that I even played video games, or like if I did, they didn't know really how serious it was up
Sure.
until I would say the last year or so.
Mm,
Like I it's definitely like a personal growth thing that I went through in my real life, where I just felt like I didn't need to hide myself, because I work in an industry that is so separate from my secretive online life or
sure.
whatever, um that I always felt like uncomfortable to share it. And then I don't know, I started meeting more people in person than I did before. I never really knew that many people in person that played video games, so that was a challenge, and none of my like super close friends do. Not that I felt like my super close friends would judge me or anything like that. It was just like it it just never played a part in my relationship with them, so I just never really cared to like bring it up. um and then now I have started doing that more, where I've been more open about that, and I mean it's been received very well. Not that I cared, but like it's I don't know, it's so interesting that for so long nobody even had a clue, if that,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that came on with the pandemic too, because there were
Yeah.
people like, oh, what activities can we do inside? A lot of people turned to like, I'm gonna buy a PlayStation or I'm
Right,
gonna
right,
build
right.
a computer and um, get into gaming in some way. And now it's like you translate those skills. Now people are building these Discord communities that are very permission heavy, where you have roles and you have all these groups that you can become a
Mhm,
part of, and that's all centralized online, which is
mhm,
a really cool thing that kind of extends over the internet. You're bringing links in from all these other platforms that you're frequently using.
mhm.
Um, where someone would never even touch that with a 10-foot pole. Sometimes, you know, if their previous um, life was just hanging out with people, you know, in person and heading out to the bar or to do an activity or any of these things week in, week out, as their normal activity, are now exposed to this and, you know, jumping into some of the games that we're in and saying, hey, what's up? You know,
Mhm.
so I think it's super cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think it's incredible. I think if anything, what I've realized that it adds. It's not like I feel more special or anything. It's just I feel like it adds a little bit of nuance to who I am,
mhm.
and especially like dating and stuff too. Is just like I definitely never made that explicit before, but now I just don't care, and I feel like if anything, it helps people feel more connected to me because I'm sharing a larger portion. This is a huge part of my life.
Yeah,
It's not like, I come home and I, you know, sit on my Switch or whatever for 30 minutes to an hour, which most casual people do these days.
mhm.
But I get on and I play for hours.
Yeah,
Or if I'm not playing, I'm, facilitating something. I mean,
right.
when we were running a community for New World, which is a
Mm,
newer game for those that don't know. Um, I was leading it. Arguably, Pat was leading it.
yeah, right.
We spent a lot of our time doing that, and I called it a second job, but an
Right.
unpaid second job. but
Sure.
and that was the craziest experience because I've never felt so needed by people online. And especially you. I mean, people were coming to you for answers all the time, but I was the one handling the logistics or the PR or whatever.
Right.
Okay, to expand further, like all of these crazy life skills that you can't really put on a resume too.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I mean, like I have never been so involved in so many things without even knowing it until I started running communities for games. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy the stuff that you kind of get flung into. And like now, communities that are still being run for that game. I mean, I saw one recently and they have like all of these Google Forms, like so many Excel spreadsheets and lists and forms for people to fill out. Like it's great. It's a business. Like it's
Yeah.
people are running, and in the game, for those that are not aware, they're called companies. Like you're running a company, but obviously it's not lucrative or anything in real life, but like it very much runs in that way, and it's insane. And I'm very happy I'm not doing that anymore because I can't expel or expend that much energy on something that is just frustrating at the end of the day.
Yeah, as you bring up, those skills that are required in these communities, I think even older games had those elements, like World of Warcraft. You
Right.
had guilds and people connecting together, and you bring those skills into your jobs when you're managing 20 people to complete an objective. I mean,
Hmm.
that's team leadership all the way to its
Hmm.
core, and you're working on deadlines because there's these things in all these games that are called resets, where every Tuesday, on Patch Tuesday normally, they roll a reset and you restart all of the in-game activities that you're gonna do for the week, and it's time sensitive, so you're coordinating all these people to achieve these objectives, and there's strategy, and there's all these different skill sets you pull in, graphic design, to
Yes.
promote the companies or guilds or clans or whatever they're
Right.
called, specific to that game. But you're also creating strategies and drawing things, and really commanding people in a way that you don't get if you're just a casual gamer. You really
Right.
don't. You're,
Right.
you
I
know,
think casual gamers don't even really have the scope to understand what we're talking about right now.
oh sure,
Even.
yeah, and that might be an aspect of the MMO genre of games,
Yeah.
because it's different than just jumping into a quick play lobby. You're playing
Right.
something on, not to pick on Switch or anything, but like
Right.
Just Dance or Animal Crossing or any of these
It's just
kind of
different. It's
go feely
completely
good games,
different.
which I love as well.
Right.
There's plenty of games that are worth playing. um, but it's something that I think that in these younger players, it's a great thing for them to get exposed to too, because they start wondering. They're like, how do you do that? And
Hmm.
then you're spending half your time in Discord explaining to someone how to use, like, all of these business applications that are great for people to learn that don't get those skills in school, or
Hmm.
they might not have that in practice in their industry.
Hmm.
So I've had a lot of fun with it. New World, unfortunately, hasn't panned out for everyone.
Right.
But yeah, so far, I enjoy online communities. I enjoy the community building aspect of it. The time investment,
Mm.
that's something that is a little intense. But you definitely find some strange things. Speaking of that, do you have anything off the top of your head that is like a strange thing that has popped up since the pandemic has started? In my mind, it's like Twitch and how many people are now active on Twitch and doing, more live streaming, more, um, I would say, like, lucrative things on the internet. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think we've learned how we can interface completely differently, in more creative ways, and I think a lot of people have been like almost forced to utilize those, because in situations that I've been in since the pandemic, I mean, obviously we're probably considered a little bit more tech savvy than the average person, and for us, we're like already utilizing all of these things, but um to see people that typically like their way to interface with people is to go to a bar after work, or go hang out at the park or whatever, who don't, the most techie thing that they do is open Instagram, to find them using things like Discord or other types of technology. I mean, people figuring out what Twitch is a huge thing for sure, and becoming streamers on platforms like that, spending more time on YouTube apart from just Netflix as well. I mean, it's been pretty crazy to see a complete shift.
yeah. How much do you think that people are going to continue, as these trends are and these platforms are kind of becoming like, all to include the same features, like,
Hmm.
live streaming is now hitting every single platform at the same
Oh
time.
yeah.
Like, will that crumble, or will there just be subsets? Like, I think of Twitch is now turning into a big hotbed for the, like, risque ASMR, hot
Yeah.
tub streams, like things
Yeah.
that are in commonplace, not really safe for work or safe for
Hmm.
children or
Hmm.
anything, then being streamed to children, to, all of these things. I just think there's some weird trends that are going on that those platforms might get a bad rap for becoming just the hotbed of these strange
Right.
trends.
Well, I think there's a few things. I think the free market is going to dictate what is the most successful and what people are
Mhm.
using. That's kind of the beauty of that, is you can't really monopolize a streaming service, because there's so much opportunity for everyone to kind of dip into it, especially now. And then in terms of like NSFW type content, I mean, I will say a lot of platforms are really good about that, with having so many new customers or viewers or whatever. So many platforms are a lot better at that now, um, because they realize like we're going to become a potential lawsuit situation if we don't step in and make sure our creators are producing the right content. YouTube is notorious for that. I mean, YouTube really stomps down anything that is like remotely not okay.
Right.
And as even if it's within terms, they've been known to cut anything out if like there's even like a report of it or something like that. So they're really good about that. But should we hop into a break?
Sure. Sounds
Okay.
good.
And we're back. um, yeah, so going back to when we met in person, which is crazy because I've never met someone online. Well, okay, that's a lie. Online dating is very different.
I was about to say that.
I've definitely met someone on an app and met them in person. Yes. But I've never met someone in this way, via like gaming or on Discord or whatever, and not obviously not had that intention. And we knew a lot about each other before we
Sure.
met too. Like
Oh yeah.
we shared a lot of information about each other's lives to each other before we even met. And then um you came out to visit your family, right?
Yeah, my brother. My brother, yeah.
Right.
So I
And
came
then
out and
you reached out to me about that.
sure. Yeah, so in the initial planning stage, I was like, well, I'm gonna be there for say a week's time or something, and
Mhm.
gonna need something to do. So I was like, oh, you guys want to
So
meet
I
up?
became your entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was literally the last resort. So
Yeah, well,
just
I often
yeah.
am. Same
Uh,
with online dating is when people actually want to meet me.
oh,
I'm
don't.
I am the last resort for sure.
Oh God. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and that's kind of something in itself that you don't really meet people online when you're gaming individually. I would say the only thing that I've heard of before is meeting at conventions
Yeah,
centered
yeah, yeah, yeah,
around
yeah.
comics or gaming or something where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna meet
When
up with
all
my
the nerds congregate. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna meet up with all my friends
Yeah.
that I met online, but we just we're like, okay, here's a restaurant, let's just meet there, and
Mhm.
I don't know. You want to jump
And
into?
for my San Francisco natives, we went to Kitchen Story for brunch, as one does, because you were there. You wanted to meet on a Sunday, and I was like, oh, we absolutely have to do brunch. That's probably not a thing for you, so we have to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm Midwest native, so brunch
yeah,
isn't. I
so
mean, it's
it's
not something
different.
I. Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of a religion in California. I would say definitely in the Bay Area, it's a huge deal. Especially because work life balance is super important for people out here. So weekends are very serious for people. And day drinking is a great portion of that. And I'm not someone who is a huge drinker. I don't love being drunk or anything like that too often. I think I'm getting a little more comfortable with it, which could potentially be an issue, but
yeah. You'll find out eventually.
yeah, yeah. When I'm an alcoholic, I'll know.
yeah,
No. So obviously I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. That sounds fun. And as one does, you order bottomless mimosas. I don't remember if it was bottomless, but we had at least
oh yeah, it
we
was
had at least
definitely.
two pitchers.
I was planning on getting like a drink, and
Right.
then I looked at
And
the
I
menu, and there were like
left. Yeah.
4 things available, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess we're getting mimosas, and then it just
Yeah.
became the rest of the day. I think we ate our food in like 5 minutes. Like it just
Well,
we
yeah,
ordered, it
we
came out, we
definitely
ate, and then
ate
it was like we
for a
were
few
there for like
minutes.
3 hours.
Yes.
so
So for someone maybe who isn't as familiar with brunch, that's what it is. If people eat, that's an accomplishment. I'm an eater at brunch. But a lot of people will go to brunch just to drink. I can't do that, but you definitely are there, to consume all of the carbs possible, and then just drink your ass off the rest of the day.
right,
And then there's for me, I don't usually continue. Usually there's like a 5 p.m. nap after that, um, which actually did happen for me. But
yeah,
yeah, so we went to Kitchen Story. We had brunch. We had I want to say at least two pitchers. It could have been more. They weren't huge. They were
right,
definitely like carafe sized, but they definitely weren't like a drink per person. It was a lot
sure,
of alcohol. And then I don't remember at the time, because this was what, 2019
yeah,
had to be
pre pandemic,
pre
definitely.
panny. uh uh and I don't think weed was illegal in Illinois, correct? Or was it?
I
Or legal, sorry.
I don't think so at that time. No, yeah,
Yeah, I think that that year, that's when they had like announced that they're
sure,
going in that
yeah,
direction. So I was like, oh well, you're also in California and
right,
in the Bay Area, where we can just go and get weed. And I was like, if you want, we can go. I'm happy to take you to a
right.
dispensary. For those who don't know, I very much love being medicated. Uh, I'm definitely a lightweight, but like it's really cost effective for me. I get medicated very very easily, and I was super down, and Pat was down, so we went to a dispensary, and I think we got edibles, if I remember. We
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
we didn't
I
smoke
just kind
anything.
of piggybacked because I was like, this is a new world. I don't know.
Right, and the one we went to was. It was the one in the Mission. I don't remember, but we were super close. We just like we walked to it, and it was the one that I really liked going to at the time, and it was huge. So for your first time, it's a lot of stuff because it's
Mhm.
just glass cases
Oh
full of
yeah.
shit. It's
N-
just
I thought it was like a
extensive.
thrift shop or something.
They're
There was
asking
this.
numbers and percentages and strains, and it's a lot. I mean, even now as someone who's been involved with weed for a few years now, it's a lot of information, and if you have no idea what they're saying, it literally sounds like gibberish.
Right.
So we picked out like a few edibles. I'm sure I did, and we
Mhm.
took edibles, and edibles don't hit you that fast, but we were definitely drunk already. We were absolutely sloshed by then, and then we were just walking around in the Mission, and for some reason, I really wanted a smoothie. I don't know why.
It
Um,
just popped up. It was right
I
there.
had to have a smoothie, and we went to Sidewalk Juice, um, and it's not the one near Mission. It was like down. I don't know. We just ended up in like the most random part of that area for some reason. We were just walking, and I dragged you into a smoothie shop, and you can describe the rest from there because honestly, I don't really remember a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
what happened.
I mean, we ordered a smoothie and it was just a normal interaction. Look at the menu, browse a little bit, grab something, and the guy had made the extra portion of the smoothie and put it in a tiny little, 5-ounce cup and put it
Which
on top. And
I have
you,
never seen that before. Who does that? Who makes
I,
extra and
I
puts it
think
in
he
like
was just trying to
a
be
dipping
nice.
cup? Well,
Yeah.
he was very nice, absolutely. But it was like, in my defense, before we get there,
Yeah.
who does that? Like, who
I,
puts it in like a dipping cup? Anyways, go ahead.
I've never seen it before. First time.
No,
So it was a San Francisco thing, I swear.
it's. I
So
promise you, it's not a San Francisco
I've
thing.
gotten smoothies in s- every other state I've visited, and never once have I seen, that go on. But
Yeah.
at any rate, you, after you paid, just grabbed the base bottom of your smoothie and ripped it back towards you, and this thing went flying across the shop and just
Yeah.
spilled all over the floor.
Yeah.
And
And
this
we can
guy
sit here
just
and say that it was this tiny little Dixie cup full of remaining smoothie, but that shit spread everywhere. There was smoothie all over the floor, and at this point I think the edible had absolutely kicked in full force. Like, all 5 milligrams were reaching every edge of my body, including the like 87 glasses of mimosa that I had, and I was not transcending. Whatever the opposite of transcending was, that's where I was at. It was just full chaos in my brain, and I literally could not compute what was happening in front of me.
Yeah, so luckily the guy that was working there had a mop ready and cleaned up, no
Uh,
problem. But
out of
the
Can we talk about how
problem,
fast the mop came out too?
he had
It
it
was
just like in his
He was
pocket.
already
It
holding
was
it.
so
Like,
it was so weird.
he pressed the button to ring me up for that fucking smoothie. He already had the mop in his hand. Like,
That's
he was
right.
pressing the buttons on the iPad for the Square with the mop. I swear to God, because it happened, and then instantly he just like came
Yeah.
out and started
It
mopping.
must have been like the third one of the day
Because
or
he keeps
something.
doing it, because
He-
people don't expect the extra Dixie cup.
Maybe it's just he's laying a trap every time.
He's bored. That's
Yeah,
what it was.
makes his job more fun in a
Yeah.
way. But then
For
he's,
who?
yeah, but then he's stuck cleaning it up or
Yeah.
whatever. But then the events after that were you were in that headspace, and then we're like, okay, I need to go, and just called an Uber and left. And I was like, okay, I don't even know where San
And
Francisco.
and for people that are familiar with San Francisco, we weren't in like the main main strip of the mission. We were east of the mission where all of like the residential houses are, and it's a little bit rougher for sure. Like if you're not familiar with the area, it definitely looks a little bit more rough. But it's the whole like residential space that's east of Mission, so it's definitely not tourist familiar at all.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't feel, in any way dangerous or unsafe or anything.
No.
Just me being like, I have
Where
no
am
clue
I?
where I am. Like, I didn't even know the street name, the closest street
Honestly,
name. So
I lived there for 9 years. I have no idea where we were.
right,
I have no idea.
and so that was
But can we
perfect.
also talk about how high he was? The guy that
Oh,
worked there?
oh yeah,
Like,
definitely.
as soon as he brought the mop out, I mean, I know I was high as balls and drunk.
Yeah.
Like, I know it was crossfaded. I understand that. But I was also coherent enough to realize that he was out of his mind high. Like, his eyes were so red.
Yeah.
And he was smiling. He was having a good time mopping. Like, this definitely was fun for him. And
Easily,
I of course was, someone who's worked in the service industry for many years was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel really bad. I'm really fucked up. Sipping on my smoothie,
right,
my $12 smoothie.
yeah.
And you were completely confused about everything.
Yeah, I was just like, why would you do this to me?
Yeah.
I'm a guest here, and you made a fool.
Yes, of
us,
you.
Yeah, of
and
me.
And then immediately after that, I was like, I'm going home, and and was like, my Uber's already here.
Yeah, like I don't know how you order that. You order that in your pocket without looking. Like,
it's my brain is connected to my phone when it comes to Ubers. When it comes to an Uber, and I think my friends who have been to a club with me, because I'm not a big clubber, can definitely attest to I'm the first person to leave, and I get an Uber instantly. Like, as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm leaving, like, I'm gone. Like, I'm in the car as I'm waving, and I was and that's
so
pretty
like, where
much what
did he
happened.
go?
Yeah, no, I'm just bye. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm like, I could probably
They have to peel you off of the couch.
No, not even that. Just maybe I've ordered 20 Ubers in my life. Like I don't really use rideshare too much. It's not required in the cities that I've lived in. You can.
Yeah, I mean, it's not required here. We're just all lazy and privileged, and make
Could
way
be.
too much money. Absolutely, yeah. Out here,
and it's more frequent because
it's way more frequent.
You're like, oh, they'll be here in 47 minutes if I order it now. Yours is like, okay, they're here in 47 seconds. Like,
let me tell you. So I live in Oakland now. And before I lived in San Francisco for 9 years. Living in San Francisco, you order an Uber and it comes pretty much within 5 minutes. This is definitely pre-pandemic too. Like, there's definitely or at least there was a shortage of drivers for a long time, and taking Ubers became a lot less frequent, obviously. And pretty much, like, if I was not going to get a ride in 5 minutes, I was not going to take an Uber. Like, I was going to cancel my ride and request a new one because 10 plus minutes. Who has time for that? Like, literally no one has time for that. So then I moved to Oakland, and I take Ubers, or I used to take Uber very, very frequently. I still definitely take it more than I need to. I should definitely not rely on it. I've gotten a little bit better the last few months, for sure, but I remember the first few times I requested an Uber from my house to go anywhere, and it would say like at least 10 to 15 minutes, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where am I? I'm minutes away from where I used to live. No, okay, not minutes, but I'm like 15 minutes away from where I used to live.
Right.
Like, the drive is not that far, but something about Oakland, apparently everybody speed walks everywhere or drives their electric car to the grocery. I don't know. It's something that I've had to come to terms with. Life out here is very different. It's an adjustment.
And you're only 15 minutes away, which is
well, it's from my old house, which I won't go to again.
Right. Yeah, no, but
that hellhole, absolutely not.
There's that big of a difference in the way that you interface with.
Oh, I mean, San Francisco is a very different place from anywhere that I've ever lived. I feel like it's not fully self-aware, the city, and by it I mean the people that live there. I mean, not to say everyone's like that, but like especially the people that make far too much money. The privilege is real, and it's maybe not their fault. It is important to be self-aware, but like the culture there is just so interesting. It's such a weird, I don't know. It's very different. Oakland's been very refreshing, but I'm not anti San Francisco. I'm just enjoying my experience in Oakland right now.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole move for me from Chicago to Indiana was a big jump the other direction into less busy.
Yeah.
And now I don't even know if they have all of the rideshare apps where I live.
Probably
It's
not.
nowhere close. You know, the Uber
Yeah.
would come from Chicago and it would take 40 minutes.
And he would cancel on you literally
Yeah.
instantly.
Oh yeah. 100%. So how has remote work been in the pandemic and kind of
that's been interesting for me because I
Mhm.
feel like I share an experience that is probably different from most people in the area that I live in, at least, because I'm in the tech hub, so many jobs can be remote,
Mhm.
which a lot of companies realize, mine especially. But I only worked remotely for 2 months.
Mhm.
Not to go too in depth about the work that I do, but I work. My job requires me to be in person,
Mhm.
where what I'm doing right now, and I had just started a new job, like a month before quarantine, and we were the first city to quarantine in the country too. So everything was like really, really weird, and I had never worked from home before. I didn't know how to do this job from home. Basically I was doing as much as I could from
Mhm.
home, and that was my whole team. We had no idea what the fuck was going on, and we just did what we could. We completely shifted how we did everything, but I only worked from home for 2 months remotely. Did not like it as much as I thought I would, but I think a lot of it was because like emotionally,
Mhm.
you have no idea what you're going on. Nobody's vaccinated at the time. you
Right.
know we we were so worried about leaving our home. I mean, at the time, with the San Francisco quarantine, you couldn't leave your home unless you were
Right.
going to the grocery store or going to work with a sanctioned letter.
Mhm.
So 2 months after that, I started going into the office, still not doing the job that I had just started, but
Right.
just doing whatever I could. And
Mhm.
I started going to the office, and I was like, I was probably one of the first waves, apart from like grocery store workers and stuff like that, but I was the first wave of people to learn how it is to newly work with masks and gloves,
Mhm.
and social distance and that kind of stuff. And
Sure.
it was a very, 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 very strange time, but I almost miss it because now people are just so forward with like being over the pandemic,
Yeah.
like being maskless around me, that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know. I like my distance. I
Yeah.
miss my social distance for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would say my experience is much different because of the the turn of the peak of the pandemic. I had just
Mm.
started online school where I'm
Right.
doing my master's, and it was a completely different experience than my undergrad. I was, in person, lived at college,
Mm.
up in Wisconsin, and now I'm on an online degree, and you record your screen and record your homework, and you're just interfacing with the internet a little differently, and submitting everything to someone you've never met and listening to these professors you
Yeah.
never met. And so now it's been nice that I've been really involved at the university in person,
Hmm.
as things have reopened, to get to meet those people. And now I think long term, I love the idea of remote, and
Same.
that's just gonna hopefully work well in my industry, which is IT. So
Hmm.
um, I've just picked up so many skills that I think the pandemic kind of forced on us. But there's definitely some strange things that I found recently. I just started a TikTok, and I was super interested in their
Well, you started
algorithm.
a TikTok for you, or
No, no,
you're
no. For
consuming TikTok?
yeah. Well,
Okay.
for my
'Cause those are
business.
two very different things.
No, for my business, I really want to kind of cut into what's going on that application. But I
Okay.
was
A
interested
lot.
in the way that the algorithm kind of drills you into
Hmm.
whatever you were viewing is now everything you're viewing.
Hmm.
I think that's super interesting, but also kind of weird and strange. And you like dive down the rabbit hole and just keep going deeper and deeper. So I'm sure
Yeah.
we're gonna find some interesting people or strange things on there that I can bring into the show here. But
Yeah, no, I mean TikTok is wild. I years ago when it started becoming more of a thing here, I was super resistant to it because I was like, oh, that's just cringy and weird, and like it was definitely. I think it was. Oh, I think the app. I don't know for sure. Someone can fact check. I think the app originally was Musically, and I don't know
mm,
how familiar you are with that, but it was a lot of like
mm,
children
mm,
and like genuine like under 18 children. I mean
sure.
TikTok is now, let's be honest, but it was small children and very interesting creatures who who were far too old.
Yeah,
I well, not to age shame but or anything like that, but just the complete opposite of each other were using the platform.
right.
And I just saw like compilations of it on YouTube, which is honestly one of my favorite things is like compilations on YouTube of anything.
Oh yeah. You
Vine compilations are my jam. But Pat will tell you I'm the first person to send like I know way too many niche short form video references. Like
oh
I
yeah.
even today I was playing League of Legends with some of my other friends, and someone said something and it made me think of this TikTok of this dog drinking sparkling water. and and I'm not gonna recreate it because I'm just gonna embarrass myself. But basically, the dog like drank the sparkling water, and he looks up, and it's this voiceover of like, "Why is it spicy?" Uh,
Mm,
and it was so entertaining. It was a TikTok that I saw on Instagram, but the way that I'm able to just like reference garbage like that
yeah.
honestly makes me feel like I'm wasting so much brain power. And
Oof.
to give you an idea of why I was so resistant to uh diving into TikTok was because of that. Because of how I experienced Vine compilations on YouTube and how I can reference so many Vines out of thin air.
Sure.
I just didn't want to get to that point where all I was doing was referencing TikToks.
Mm,
So I personally very much avoid the app, not because I hate it or anything like that. I think it's so entertaining. There's a lot of content and a lot of entertainment on there, but I could just scroll for hours. So it's a lot. But I mean, it's a great way for people to be discovered for whatever talent they have. I mean,
ooh.
yeah.
Talent.
For those who were just listening, I did hard air quotes for that one. I mean, there is talent on there for sure,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
well, it got a really bad rap at the beginning because of the acting. Again, air quotes. The acting of like people. Do you know what I'm talking about with like the acting
No, not
that
at
was
all.
on TikTok?
I don't know anything about it. I literally just
Oh, so
yeah,
you're
I
a
literally
virgin.
just
Okay.
downloaded it and was like, "What
Well,
is
let me
this?"
let me ruin the experience for you. So, I mean, it
Mhm.
has shifted a lot. So it became a lot more popular very very quickly. So it's a huge platform. I think even bigger than a lot of people understand. But there was this trend, and it's still happening, but it's a lot less. I think serious. I think people understand it's a meme now, but there was this trend that people were considering themselves like
Mm,
actors because they would with TikTok, you can. I'm not super familiar with creating content on the platform. Just what I understand of the app, you can put voiceovers over your
mm,
video, and that's the
mhm,
sound. And people would lip sync to these voiceovers and try to have some sort of like dramatic expression while they're doing it, whatever the tone was. I don't know. And some people were like seriously trying to reenact the original line or
okay.
whatever whilst they're lip syncing to this voiceover, and it was like from movies and stuff. And it was like small children doing this kind of stuff, or just again the complete opposite demographic of like strange
Mhm,
creatures doing this and seriously considering themselves as actors. And it was the weirdest thing. And that was definitely a push away for me to like even touch the app. But now it's just so much more garbage and like fun stuff than you could even imagine. Like it's a genuinely really hilarious app. But I noticed what I'm super well, I'm probably targeted for this, but what I'm super invested in is like I've become one of those people that enjoys videos of like dogs and cats like being cute, which I have never been in my life, and now I'm like sitting here just liking all of them. I'm like, oh my god, that's so cute. Um, and then also enjoying a lot of gay content. Like gay produced content is honestly just so entertaining. And I saw a video or another podcast the other day of someone was asked like, are gays funnier? And I think the answer is yes. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that as we continue. I I
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
actually wanted to kind of get your thought. Obviously, I've said that I don't know much about TikTok and just got started, but where are the other platforms that people are constantly on, like Facebook, Instagram? Where are those at? Like, what is with the
Like content
metaverse? Yeah,
wise, like what are people?
like I just don't know where the pace of it. I feel like Facebook has kind of turned to the older generations are very active on it,
Yes,
and then everyone else kind of
yes,
pulled off of it, and Instagram might be young and thriving.
right. Well,
um,
so I'm not going to be an advocate or be able to describe exactly what's going on Facebook because I very much don't use
mm,
it anymore, like at all. Um, but from what I do understand, all of anyone 40 plus in my family pretty much exclusively uses
mm,
it. Like that's their daily digest, um, which is troubling. Um, Instagram, which I do use on a daily basis, is definitely an amalgamation of a lot of different things. What I think it's really good at, and it's better at than other platforms, is branding, marketing for
mhm,
brands, and fashion, which is what I use it a lot for, as well as um, regurgitated memes and stuff like that because none of the well, not none of it, but a lot of the content that are like memes and comedy and stuff like that, comedy very very loosely, um, a lot of that originates from like TikTok and Twitter,
mm,
for sure. And then Twitter is honestly everything. I mean, I think most people know Twitter as like the political
inflammatory,
platform.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, because of POTUS. Um, but Twitter is that. But so is Facebook. But Twitter is that. A lot of people use Twitter as like their daily
Mm,
news, which I find
interesting.
pretty crazy. And then it has everything. I mean, it's also not there's content that is age restricted, but it's not
Mm,
banned. So a lot of sex workers who use like OnlyFans and stuff like that will post content on
mm,
Twitter, and it's explicit. Like there's
sure. Mhm,
everything. Um, but I mean, Twitter has everything. Twitter, it's just a different form, right? Like everything is just a different form. But in terms of like um new events, I think Twitter is better at keeping people posted on what's going
gotcha.
on. So like if a show is posting a premiere notice, like that's really good for that. And then TikTok is just like it's this like huge amalgamation of just like full creativity and like whatever you can think of, but it's also the first platform to do what it does, which kind of makes it the best right
Mm,
now. But Instagram's really trying to get there, but to be able to put any song or any movie quote or whatever on a video of you
mhm,
doing whatever you want, like that's pretty revolutionary, and something that YouTube doesn't allow, because YouTube, if you
right.
use someone
They
else's
copyright
music
flag
or
you
whatever,
for
yeah, you get
everything.
copyright uh
Right.
restrictions for sure. And then YouTube is, I mean, as we know, it's a whole
Yeah, I would say
YouTube is everything.
the past probably 3 years or so is when I really kind of ripped myself off the internet, and I had
Hmm.
no social accounts on anything. So
Hmm.
that's why I bring it up, is now I'm coming back into it and I have no idea what any of it.
It's even worse than it was before.
Great.
Let me just tell you
Yeah.
that. Like
Well,
it's
I like
it's
that's
so
where
much
we're gonna find
so
all
much
of
worse. Yeah.
these strange things that we want to share and talk about, and these trends. And
Right.
I think one that is
Yeah.
kind of the sleeper uh, platform of oddities is Reddit. Oh my god.
I was gonna bring that up. Like I'm not a huge Redditor. I'm not good at getting on that platform and I use so many other
Hmm.
things. Like YouTube is definitely my one. Like that's the one that if I'm bored and I need like some fill of content, like YouTube's my
Hmm.
default. Um but people are Redditors, and I know there's so much shit going on in there that I haven't even scraped the surface of. But Reddit's similar to Twitter, where it's like there's no age restrict or content restriction at all. Like you can post
Right.
whatever you want.
Yeah. They
My
just.
favorite that I have kind of dipped my toe into in the past is like the the conspiracy Reddits. Like those are so
Mm,
entertaining to me. I would love to have an episode where we just like dive into conspiracy, because I I'm not personally subscribing to any conspiracies, but I
sure.
love watching people subscribe to
Yeah.
conspiracies.
Watch the show.
Yes,
It's
no,
like
yeah.
a
I
people
watch
watching
the
event.
reality TV show of people being invested in conspiracy, and I think it's so entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I'm more of what they call a lurker. I mean,
Mm,
I just jump in and out of different
hmm.
threads and check out everything. But that's an interesting thing as well, because there's plenty of people that get their news from Reddit and they're talking
Right.
to me, and I'm like, you're just repeating the like top postings of Reddit
Yeah,
today,
no,
and
that's Twitter and
so
Facebook too. Like it's
yeah, I mean,
the
it's
human condition of repetition and regurgitation, right? Of,
yeah,
I don't have time to look into that and blah blah blah, but so and so told me. I mean,
yeah,
people do that in person. Like that's I remember I had family that would do that. I was just like, oh, so and so told me this, and this is like now it's fact. I'm like, but you don't know that. Like,
right.
like you don't know
No
that at
one's talked
all.
to them. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you weren't there.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna obviously jump into these apps and platforms and keep talking to each other and figuring out what's next for our podcast.
Hmm.
But I'm actually expecting a baby in like a week and a
Yeah,
half
we haven't
or
even
so
talked
or
about
after
that.
that. Well, that's what I was about to say. You
Yeah.
know, next week the episode can maybe be first look, or maybe I'll be waiting, and
Hmm.
it might mess up our scheduling a little bit. But
Awesome. Can't wait. Just
um,
kidding.
yeah, hopefully we'll be back. Do you have any last minute questions or asks for this episode?
No, I just I want to thank anybody that has listened. I know I've shared it with a lot of my friends and family. So thank you to those who are listening. We're new podcast. We're not expecting thousands of listens or anything like that, but we just decided that we want to chat about what we already chat about, and just share that with people, because we definitely had a day where we sat there and we're like, we're fucking funny. Like we're funny people, and people should be in on the joke, right? Like not hidden
Oh
behind
yeah,
a not
definitely.
hidden behind a wall of what Discord channel we're in. But for me, this is a way to share with other people who aren't in those communities, um, kind of a peek behind the lens of like what we're experiencing, because I think you and I are in a category of realism where
Yeah,
we don't fit in a specific demographic of online person. Maybe, I don't know,
sure.
at least with the people that we surround ourselves with. Not everyone obviously, but like there are so many people that are like gamer nerds, and like I don't think we're
Yeah.
that. So it's I want to share that with people, and I think this is like one of the more interesting ways that we could do it, or at least the best way too. But yeah.
Yeah, and we're very on opposite ends of the
100%.
spectrum, I believe.
Yeah.
Like as we come full circle, we kind of met as enemies in a way. So there's things that I say where you were just like absolutely not, and
Yeah.
here's why.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's one
Um,
thing is we've had a lot of debates about stuff that we like
oh yeah,
absolutely didn't agree on. And I think one thing we're really good at is I don't think we ever fight about anything.
no, no,
Um
not at all.
but we can definitely disagree with things, and it which is like arguably healthier, right? Is like
Oh
we
yeah,
can sit here and disagree
100%.
about something, but we're not going to like stop talking to the other person just because we don't agree with
Right.
that.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're gonna disagree on the show as
We
we
already
do
have. No,
some
I'm kidding.
some live stuff. Yeah. But generally, we're doing a bit of setup in this episode. But I hope you guys continue to tune in. And thanks again for checking us out. Spread the word, and we will continue to find some strange trends and things on the internet and kind of give our take and hopefully build up a little like you said, of some realism, some great opinions that we want to share, along with some funny things.
Yeah, and
So
so for those who are just finishing up with here, us here, we're gonna be on a few different social platforms. The podcast is gonna be on all the major streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google. At this time, we might expand it more. And then we're definitely going to be posting our podcasts on YouTube. So for those who are just listening, we're also going to have a video podcast as well. If that's something that you're more interested in. And then we do have an Instagram as well. It is actually, let me pull it up so I can remember exactly what I named it, since it is new, everybody. But definitely go ahead and give us a follow. We're going to be posting little tidbits on there, but it's The Strange Internet Pod on Instagram. We're not yet on Twitter, but we might just be on there too. So yeah, give us a check out on all of our socials as well. But this was The Strange Internet Podcast. I'm Robert.
And I'm Patrick. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.